So you're under contract to buy a house. I'm super excited for you, but you're sitting there going, oh my God, what have I done? What's next? I've got it all coming up for you. Just hang tight. Hey everybody, Stacey Hester here, your favorite realtor in all of Southern Oklahoma. And we're gonna talk a little bit about what it means to go under contract when you're buying a house and basically all of the steps that come after that. So there's quite a bit that's gonna be going on. I'm just gonna be upfront. Some of it's gonna be very time sensitive, so a little bit stressful. No! And then you're gonna have a little bit of a period of time where things aren't gonna be that stressful and you're gonna be like, am I really buying a house? And then you're gonna go back to things being a little stressful again because you're gonna be closing on your house. So let's get into this. What I'm going through is strictly for purchasing a house in the state of Oklahoma. I have definitely learned working with buyers from all over the country that everybody has their own terms. And I try not to use other states' terms because I don't have the training to understand specifically what those words mean in that specific state. So what does it mean to go under contract? First of all, right? What does it actually mean? So when you're under contract is when you actually have your offer signed by you, and then the sellers have now agreed to it and they have signed off on that offer. So now it becomes an official contract, which will be dropped off with title and your lender if you have one. The dropping off of the contract to title and lending is wholly my responsibility if I am your buyer's agent. So I'll be sending an electronic copy over to them. Your responsibility as the buyer is to just strictly get your earnest money over to the title company. In the state of Oklahoma, we have earnest money, or also known as good faith money. That's another term for it. But in the contract for the state of Oklahoma, it is called earnest money. It is due within 3 business days of you going under contract. Earnest money. You can hear my dog barking, but whatever, he just does this. Earnest money needs to be either, well, basically anything other than cash. So you can have a personal check, you can have a money order, you can have a cashier's check, but again, it just needs to be in the hands of the title company within those 3 business days. You can also wire it, but I would need to get specific wiring instructions from the title company in order for you to be able to do that. What's after earnest money? So kind of at the same time that you're dealing with the earnest money or you have it mailed off to title. Oh, by the way, earnest money, if you are mailing earnest money to the title company, I highly suggest a tracking number. And I also like to receive a copy of the check just so I have something for my files to show just in case there's any problems, so that I have something showing the listing agent that we've actually got, you know, you're following through with this. We're truly doing the best we can. But all right, so right after the earnest money, the next thing that you're going to be doing is going to be the inspections. Inspections are voluntary, but I highly suggest it. And some lenders actually require some specific inspections. The inspections that lenders can require would be the termite, which for any government-backed loan, you can pretty much count on needing to get a termite inspection. And then some lenders, if you're in rural Oklahoma, they do require you to get a well inspection or a septic inspection. So if you're not on any kind of city water or sewer system, then you may need to get an inspection done on either or both of those things. So otherwise, you would just get a regular old home inspection. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. I truly, truly recommend my clients to get a home inspection done. So timeline again, so earnest money, you had 3 days. The inspection is something that is written into every contract itself. Me, as a buyer's agent, I write up usually about 14 days, just in case something does turn up. I want to be able to have enough time to schedule any additional inspections. It's imperative that home inspections are scheduled right at the beginning so that you can get your times booked and we can work through that. I have a little more about home inspections in another video that I really encourage you to watch just to get a better understanding of timelines and how things work. But this video is more about just talking about what you're doing under contract. So, okay, the third thing you're going to do right up in the beginning of the whole contract process, so you're under contract, you've got your earnest money, you've got your home inspections done, You're also going to be shopping around for homeowners insurance. So homeowners insurance matters. You really do need to get a grip on this ahead of time because a couple of reasons. If you are having a lender involved, maybe your debt to income ratio is a little bit tight. You need to be sure that you're working within a budget that's not going to push you over on your debt to income ratio. So the homeowner's insurance will count towards your house payment, and you need to make sure that you're still within those correct parameters. The other thing about homeowner's insurance is I actually haven't had this happen yet, but I've definitely heard, but some homeowner's insurance may actually roll a truck and actually see that roof and make sure that there's no damage and that it's a good insurable roof. So again, this is something that you're gonna need to take care of pretty quick in the beginning. It's a lot of homework for you to do. It's a lot of phone calls for you to be making, and I'm here to help you with all of it. Homeowners insurance really doesn't have much of a timeline with it, but it is definitely in your best interest, again, to be tackling this within that first week of going under contract. So like I said, it's those top 3 things when you first go under contract that are the most vital, and it does require a lot of stuff on your end and my end to make sure that the transaction is going to be progressing correctly. So after all of that, you're done with your inspection process. The next thing that you're going to do is you're going to go into another type of negotiation period with a repair list for the seller. So once you're at the end of your inspection period, at the end of the 14 days, again, if you're working with me, you have 24 hours or 1 day to turn in your actual repair list to the seller. So you have to have all of your inspections done, and you have to have a determination that you, the buyer, are moving forward with this transaction. So that would be your time to get out of the contract, really with your earnest money intact. So it's vital that you stick to these timelines. If you do decide that you're moving forward though, we are going to go into this last little period, and this is really a stressful time for the seller because they don't know what to expect. So you need to be pretty sensitive to the seller. You never want to lose a deal over a repair list because you're asking for a lot of things. So I always have a conversation with my buyers about really trying to manage those expectations of what you want a seller to do. But yeah. So I have busted out of deals just because some surprises came up in the inspection. So I'm not going to say I haven't lost a deal, but again, it was in my buyer's best interest to do so. And it wasn't just them, kind of flaking out. I hate to use that, but anyway, yeah. Okay, so the seller now has your repair list, and they now have 7 days to look at that repair list and give a final decision on what they want to do. Just because you gave them a repair list, they don't need to accept it. So whenever I write up one of those lists, it's called a treatment, repair, and replace list. I always am explicit with my buyer. Is there anything on here that will make you walk away from this deal? If there is, I am explicit to that selling agent that this is a no-go for us if this isn't done. So they at least have noticed that they can address that right up front with their seller, and we can hopefully work something out to negotiate through it. The seller then, like I said, they have 7 days to look at that TRR and either say, I'm not doing any of it, I'm only doing some of it, or I'm doing all of it. So those are basically, there's 3 options. So once they do that, then you'll get a copy of the TRR signed from the seller with the modifications, and it is a period of negotiation. So if they said they weren't going to do any of it, or they were only going to do some of it, you, the buyer, still have the option to work through that, or again, walk away, whatever it is that you have decided to do. Okay, so in the meantime of all of this stuff happening, we're about, what, 24 days into the transaction if you've been working through all of the timelines that have been happening. So what is happening on the other side of the deal? Other things are happening that can affect this transaction. So the seller's supposed to drop off what's called the abstract. Oklahoma is an abstracting state, and an abstract is just strictly the history of the land where your house is. So the abstract has to be brought up to date at an abstracting office. They have anywhere from 14 to 17 business days to get that done. So that's happening during all of the inspection process and whatnot. Okay, so whoopsie, I was editing my video and realized I missed a vital part called appraisals. So change of clothing next day. Yeah, so let's talk about appraisals. So appraisals are going to be done, of course, only if you have a lender. And once I turn in the contract to the lender, that's going to be a trigger for them to get that appraisal scheduled. And they will very likely be reaching out to you, the buyer, to go ahead and do a prepay on that appraisal. So yeah, the appraisal process can take as short as 2 weeks, but oh my gosh, I'm just going to call it extenuating circumstances, extraordinary times. But yeah, I've had an appraisal actually take up to 6 weeks. So it's still something you need to stay on top of. That's why it's vital that you have a buyer's agent. Keep in touch with your lender so they can continue to follow up and ask questions and make sure that the appropriate things are being done. So once that appraisal is back, then there's another little stress point for the seller because they're just wanting to make sure that that house hopefully appraises. If it doesn't, then this is another period of possible negotiations for you and the seller to go through, because if the house doesn't happen to appraise, there's 4 options that can happen here. Most likely the seller is going to come down on their asking price. It's kind of in their best interest to do so. But if they can't for some reason because they have too much debt owed or something like that, then they may need to go into a negotiation process asking the buyer to bring some money, which is number 2, or all of the money, which is number 3, to cover that shortage in the appraisal. The last option, unfortunately, is that the deal just busts and all parties walk away. So that's the appraisal piece. Sorry, I didn't film this the first time. What can I say? Once the abstract is brought up to date, then it goes to a title attorney to provide a title opinion on it. There's really no set timeline in the contract for the title opinion to be done. In my experience, it usually takes about another week. So we're kind of we're getting towards 30 days now in all of this. The title company gets the title opinion back, and the attorney may say there are requirements that are on this abstract or deed to the house. So what would requirements be? Requirements can be as simple as just paying off a mortgage. Requirements can be something as simple as there was a probate back 3 transactions ago, 3 sales ago that has not been resolved and it has to be resolved. So if you have something like that, that's when we call it cloud on title. No. But we'll save that for another day. That's a whole other can of worms. So once you have the title opinion, then your title company will issue an actual commitment for title insurance, which again, if you're cash, this is not something that's required. But again, I'm going to tell you, I can't recommend this enough. Every one of my clouds on title that I've gone through have been from a previous transaction from, unfortunately, either quitclaim deeds that have happened on the house or probate or inherited property and there was no probate. So these are things that you don't necessarily know, and you'll only understand once you go through that title opinion with the attorney reviewing everything. So once the title company has the title opinion back and they're getting ready to issue the title commitment, then that's another roughly 2 to 3 days. At this point, everything would go back to your lender. They know that they're going to be They know that they're going to be lending on a house that is free and clear of title. They don't have to worry about any past problems, and there's going to be title insurance now issued on the house. So they're going to do their final checks on everything on their side, and they have to issue the magic words, clear to close. The only things that are left to do on your checklist is to get through your final walkthrough and go to close. So the final walkthrough has to be scheduled with the listing agent and the seller to double check the house that when the people moved out that they didn't damage anything, or if the house is vacant, you're basically just double checking that maybe a pipe didn't explode or something didn't catastrophically happen in the house that needs to be fixed before you take possession. Your expectation when you do that final walkthrough is that the house is in the same condition as it was when you first contracted to purchase that house. And then of course the closing time has to be coordinated with the title company. Your buyer's agent would be managing all of that. I'm just going to, of course, be checking with you, the buyer, to make sure that you're available during those times. So I think I explained all of that okay. Because there's two scenarios. Like I said, it's a little bit different if you have a loan because they have to go through their final processes. But of course, if you're cash, there is no final processes. You're just moving on to close. So what do you need to deal with at close? We're going to receive what's called a settlement statement from the title company. I am going to make sure that everything on that settlement statement is good and accurate. So once I have that final settlement amount, then you, the buyer, get to go to your bank and either get a cashier check or you're going to coordinate a wire transfer to go to the title company on the day of closing. So the other thing to bring to closing is a valid government ID and possibly your spouse. So I've definitely had people purchase things without their spouse, but even if they're not going to be on the deed, they still have to sign a piece of paper saying that they are aware that you are purchasing this property in the state of Oklahoma. So that's what I got for you. Holy cow, you're buying a house. You're gonna get the keys at the close, and big congratulations, you made it. So congratulations on your new home purchase. If you like this video, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. If you love this video and want to see this happy, smiling little face every single week, then please be sure to hit that subscribe button. I love bringing you guys content talking about Southern Oklahoma, what it's like to live here, real estate here, because it is a little bit different here than in other states. But if you want to get those notifications every single week, then please be sure to hit that subscribe button. That's what I got for you today. Until the next time, bye.